you're not going to get that instant gratification because the results that we're after are accomplished through consistency.
Chad Peterman here, and you are listening to Can't Stop the Growth, a platform for leaders and teams to grow and thrive. We highlight the importance of personal development, pursuing greatness, and always chasing your potential. Let's get into it.
So the last dysfunction of a team is inattention to results, and figuring out how we shift from kind of our own individual success to success of the team. We've talked a lot about the scoreboards with paths to progression, KPIs, all of that stuff that we've provided with our field professionals, which I think has been a huge win across the board. That's their scoreboard. Your scoreboard as the leader can sometimes just be your departmental scoreboard. But what we're going to talk about today is, one, how do we influence the scoreboard of the people that we lead? And also, how do we make an impact on the scoreboard as a whole? The company scoreboard. So when you think about this, I think the easiest analogy, and obviously this is no surprise coming from me, but is a sports analogy. So if Jonathan Taylor ran for 244 yards on Sunday, yet the Colts lost, although they tried really hard to do so, if they would have lost outside of your fantasy team, if you have him, that wouldn't have been good as a Colts fan, right? Like, we would have been happy for Jonathan. Way to go. He's a customer of ours, by the way. Real excited about that. He and Bo are on a buddy relationship over there. But we're glad, I think, because we took care of his electrical needs, is how he's having the season he is this year. So we're excited about that.
We wouldn't have the wire in that sauna his recovery.
Exactly. The recovery be off. We'd totally. Make sure I haven't heard him shout us out in the post-game presser, but I'm sure that's coming. But anyway, it's very easy to see. I'm sure Jonathan would have been happy with his performance, but probably pretty crappy on the flight back from Berlin had they come up short in that game. And I think that is very symbolic of what we deal with today. Your department wins, but the company doesn't hit budget, or the company has issues that we're not working towards. And how do we all come together for that collective win, right? When I think about this, it's very easy to compartmentalize, to silo our results, when at the end of the day, could we be also helping someone else while achieving our results? So I think about it like this. So, I think sales and install is a perfect thing. You've got Steve and team over here. If they sell a bunch of stuff and Clint's team is able to put that in, well, that's really good. Well, if they don't sell a bunch of stuff, well, then Clint's team is like, well, we don't have any work to do. So what are we going to do? Well, if we think about it collectively, what could each of them do to create a mutual success for both of them? Well, our sales team, if we want to put in more jobs and make more happy customers and get more leads, well, we probably ought to take all the notes. We probably ought to take all the pictures. We probably ought to sell the job right. We probably ought to alert the field supervisors of any weird stuff that we need to take account for. Because the happier our install teams are, the more that they're set up for success, the better job we do. And in turn, our install team, while it may seem a lot like they're just kind of handed stuff to do, and there's not much influence they have over how much stuff we sell, well, what would happen if they showed up with a smile on their face and a clean uniform and were really pleasant to the customer and did a fantastic job and explained how to work the thermostat and what they were doing and all of that stuff? Do you think that would lead to probably some referral traffic? The installers are spending 8 to 10 hours in a day in someone's home. They're probably going to get to know the customer at some point in time. So again, rather than blaming each other, not saying we do, but there's probably a tendency to, like, hey, we don't have any work, you guys didn't sell anything. Well, we sold it, you didn't put it in right, so now we have warranty calls and this, that, and the other, and an upset customer that we're dealing with and all of this. What if we didn't only think about what we were doing, but also how we could impact another? Take it from a service line. We rolled out this referral tool, which is just seeing unbelievable success early on. So kudos to you guys. Continue to push it, continue to remind people of it. The results are just crazy. But What if you looked up at that board and your department's green, yet someone else's department's red? Well, it's real easy to, we're doing our job. Well, we got our stuff taken care of. What would it look like if you reached out to that manager? What if it's another branch? But what if you reached out to that manager? Hey, what can we do to help? Are you guys like short on leads? Is it conversion rate? Whatever it is, I can talk to my guys and see if we can set up some appointments for your guys and maybe get some extra calls out of this whole thing. What if that was our mentality? Now, it doesn't seem like it benefits us in the moment, but my guess is if we're willing to reach out and help another person, another department, I think that's probably going to come back when we need it, right? And so it's about creating that culture, that environment where we're all pulling together, all trying to hit that result that we're all collectively trying to hit. You know, it's really easy as you get bigger to be like, well, we're our own thing. And in some cases, yeah, some of these departments have 30, 40 people in them. Like, it's real easy to say, hey, we just kind of do our own thing, which you do, but you're all part of the collective whole. You know, I always joke in this business, I've been doing this for 14 years. Never have I seen like a month where everybody's rolling. It's always like, gosh, you guys were doing so good last month. What happened? Like then the other one picked it up, and how do we get everybody going? And maybe that's just one thing where you're always looking for the holes. But I also think it's something where we can continue to over-index in how do we help someone else? How do we make someone's life easier? How do we help them achieve success? Think about the people on your team. Is there someone on your team that's not achieving success? Probably. Is there someone that's knocking it out of the park? Probably. So I had the chance to listen to a speaker a couple of weeks back. He's a sports psychologist. I think we talked about this, or you talked about this, or something like this. Really cool stuff. Works with some of the top like athletes going. And he was talking about this concept of there's like a quadrant, right? And we can you're either doing the process right, and you're either getting good or bad results. And then you could be doing the process wrong, and you're getting good or bad results, right? So if we're doing the process wrong and we're getting bad results, we know that's an easy, like, oh, we need some help, right? If we're doing the process bad and getting good results, isn't that just as bad? So we need to focus on the result, but what ultimately gets us to the result? The process. Do you have someone on your team who's not following process yet getting a good result? Well, what happens there? What happens when he starts getting a bad result and you haven't held him accountable to the process that he should be following? Who's he going to blame? Everything else, everybody else, right? Well, I've been doing the same thing. Has anyone ever heard that? I've been doing the same thing. Well, maybe that same thing wasn't what you were supposed to be doing in the first place, yet you as the leader never held him accountable in the first place. And so he just continued to do that one thing. Trust me, I've seen it. You look down average options, and you'll always see someone lingering at the top weirdly, right? That's like, oh, the 2-option guy somehow performed really well this month. How long you think that's going to last? Not very. So are we stepping in to hold them accountable? Is there the guy that's producing all the revenue and his conversion rate's off the charts, yet he can't seem to ask for a review or find out how to put a yard sign in the ground? Probably. You see, we can't solely focus on the result because that's just as bad as not focusing at all. We've got to focus on the process that gets us to that result. What do we always say? If you follow the process, the results will follow. Undoubtedly. Undoubtedly. Will it happen in that moment? No. More oftentimes it's going to test you, right? Well, I did exactly what you said, but I still didn't get the result today. It's called adversity, and we're going to fight through it. Because if it was that easy, well, then why didn't you do it in the damn first place? So as we focus on these results, as we understand what each field professional's scoreboard is, how are you leading them there? That's what they're chasing. Are you meeting with them? Are you talking with them? Are you accepting bad behavior right now? If you are, why? Because you're not doing them any favors. Anybody, if you continue to get a good or halfway decent result and you know the process is wrong, how long are you going to keep doing that? Because why is the process wrong? The process is wrong because it's comfortable. It's a little bit uncomfy to do it the right way every single time. I sent out an email yesterday. Hopefully you got to read it. If you didn't, look it up. Share it with your team. Make sure that they read it. How would you run a call if you were guaranteed to win? If the result was already done, how would you run that call? And then on the flip side, how would you run that call if you were guaranteed to lose? What would that look like? To me, that says all about how committed you are to the process. And as leaders, we have to be even more committed to the process. They've got to know, come hell or high water, you want them to get the result, but the way to do it is to follow the process. It works. People prove it every single day. There are also a lot of variations of the process that don't work so well. We've seen that too. So as you work to do this, are they seeing their scoreboard? Well, you're not going to know unless you meet with them. You're not going to know unless you take it out and you put it on the table and you show it to them. And you go over it with them. And then in a week or so, you go over it with them again. And you praise their improvements. And you find areas where they can get better. Because the one thing I know is that we all can get better every single day. And the biggest one is you need to model accountability. If there's one thing that I am really hell-bent on getting better at next year, it is accountability. Not that I think we're bad. We're having a really, really awesome year. But if we rest, are we ever going to find what our potential is? No. And there's things we can fix. There's things we can get better at. There will always be. We'll always be chasing this thing that is just out of reach. Because I don't see it happening anytime soon where we convert every call for an entire month. And that's okay. Because we'll keep chasing it. I heard this in a meeting yesterday. If someone doesn't want to do business with us, why is that? 2 reasons. It's the technician, or it's the price. Are we asking the customer which one it is so that we can maybe solve that? Are we doing it on every single call? If we did, how many more would we win? What if it was just one? What would that look like over the course of a year? You see, as we're fighting for these results, as we're coaching, as we're training, as it seems like sometimes we're talking to a wall, you're not going to get that instant gratification. Because the results that we're after are accomplished through consistency. Nothing great in your life is accomplished without consistency. Even when it seems like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that just happened. Guess what? If you really look back, there's probably a long trail of hard work, determination, fighting through crappy situations, all of that led up to that one thing happening. And that's the hard thing about results. That one call today, that 8 a.m. call that Billy didn't give any options, didn't ask the customer why they didn't want to do business, was there for 25 minutes. It doesn't seem like if I hold Billy accountable on that call that I'm going to get the result that I want at the end of the month. My budget's $1 million. How's that $300 ticket ever going to get me to $1 million? One call at a time. One call from Billy today, one call from Johnny later this afternoon, one call from George tomorrow morning. I don't think we have any texts by those names, so we're all in the clear. Billy sucks. No offense, Billy. Didn't mean you exactly. It's just the easiest name. But how do we, again, show the people that we lead that it is important? We show them by holding them accountable. And over time, what will they start to grasp onto? This guy ain't gonna let me fail. He will not let me fail. He is so committed to me being successful and us taking care of that customer. I remember Andrew having a conversation with a manager about a year ago, and the close rate was 40%. And he had this bright comment. I'd never heard it before. And I was like, oh, that makes a whole lot of sense. He said, your close rate's 40%. Are you okay? What percentage of customers are you okay not doing business with? When you put it like that, it seems a little weird. So I'm a hell of a technician, and I go out to the house, and half of the time, people tell me to go away. Why is that? We got to figure that out. Because you're either really unlucky or we're not running a process. And us as leaders are not holding anyone accountable to that process if Billy is only converting at 50%. You see, we use the result as the scoreboard, but as leaders, we have to be obsessed with the process. And it's going to be uncomfortable because holding people accountable is uncomfortable. What makes it more comfy is doing it all the time. If you just hold them accountable every once in a great while, confusion arises, anger. Like, what the hell is this guy talking about? I've been doing this for like a month now. Anybody ever heard that? What are you talking about? I've been doing it like this. What I urge you to do today is to pay attention to those people on your team. Find the people who are maybe just a little bit off. They're not doing it intentionally. In fact, as leaders, we must own their results. And if we do, the fact that they're not following the process, who's that on? That's us. That's us. When I tell you holding people accountable is not easy or comfortable, I'm telling you from experience. I'm just as guilty as anybody else. And so we all have an obligation to create that culture where accountability is just a thing. Because when accountability is consistent, it sounds more like advice. It sounds more like helping you out. It begins to sound different. Why do you think we tell you to schedule all your one-on-ones? I was talking to Bo last week or the week before, and he was talking about scheduling his one-on-ones, and he had some breakthrough conversations, and people started to come in, and they weren't scared anymore. They were excited to like chat, like, hey, this is what I'm running into this. I don't know how to solve it. Like, do you guys have any advice? And he and Austin told me a story about them going out with a technician who was struggling and trying something new, and he had some great success, and he was all bought in. Well, you don't get that if he would have never scheduled the one-on-one and the technician would have not known that he was coming, and it would have been like, oh, shoot, that just appeared. I got to go meet with the manager. Am I in trouble? No, it was already scheduled. Dude, we're going to meet every other week on Wednesday at 7. I'll see you there. I'll bring you a coffee. Let's sit down and figure out how we can get you even better. Let's figure out how you can hit your next bonus level. Let's figure out how we can increase your conversion rate. I'm going to teach you how to put a yard sign in the yard. I hope that's not the conversation. That should be self-explanatory. I get it right now. The ground might be hard. Frozen. But again, you have all signed up for the responsibility to own everyone you lead's results. The way we do that is through accountability, and we model it. And we let people know that I am here to help you. I'm not here to nitpick you. I am not here to point out all your flaws. I am simply here to help you out because you are entrusting me with you being as successful as humanly possible. It's really easy to look at the plumber who did $1.2 million, $1.3 million and go, well, he doesn't really need any of my help. There's plumbers out there doing 3 and 4. He needs your help because how much better could he be? It's your job to find out. It's your job to instill accountability in your department, to own that result so that collectively your whole team is seeing success. As we look back over all of the dysfunctions, this is the last one. It all starts with what? Trust. They've got to trust you that you have their best interest at heart. The best way to do that is be consistent. The next one is fear of conflict. You have a fear of holding someone accountable because it's uncomfortable. I would wager to say it's more so because you're inconsistent. Be consistent and the fear of conflict goes away because there is no conflict. You're working together at that point in time. The next is lack of commitment. Well, why do we see lack of commitment? Because no one's holding us accountable. Why would I be committed to anything? I'll just do it my own way. Well, your own way doesn't work. So let's try it a different way. The next is avoidance of accountability. We just talked about it, right? We want to chase a result. We want to hit our budget. We want to get our bonus. We want to do all of this stuff. But we refuse to hold anybody in our department accountable. What do we typically do? Didn't have enough calls. Didn't have enough calls. Marketing's fault. I've never heard that before. Guys just didn't do it. We've all heard that before, right? It's happened. Why? Because it's easy not to take accountability. What would you need to do in your department to hit your budget? Best way to do it, take the number, work it backwards, take the same amount of calls you had last month and find out if your budget number's bigger, find out what you need to increase your conversion rate and your average ticket to, and you'll hit it. Conversion rate and average ticket are a tricky, tricky number. You start dialing that thing up by a percentage or two, all of a sudden you get bigger numbers. But we have to own it. You have no control whatsoever over the marketing department, nor will you ever. Because that's what they do. Just like they'll never be out selling a plumbing job. No offense, Brian. But again, we're all working together to achieve a goal. So yeah, if we know that we're light on calls, is marketing going to work their ass off? Yeah. But at a certain point, what are we going to do? We're going to perform, is what we're going to do. We're going to perform. We're going to chase that result by holding our teams accountable to the process. And we're going to do it consistently until we create an environment where none of these dysfunctions are present. Because everyone trusts each other, there's no fear of conflict, everyone is welcoming accountability because accountability all of a sudden meant more money in their damn pocket. And when that happens, we all win. It's a really simple formula. It's just uncomfortable to follow. It's just like the Peterman way. It's kind of uncomfortable to follow. I don't want to sound like a robot. You don't sound like a robot if you do it consistently. It sounds like actually the way that you talk. So again, as you go back to your teams, as you go into today, how can you hold your team more accountable? Accountability doesn't mean screaming and yelling and nitpicking people and all of that stuff. It may just start from scheduling a one-on-one and telling them why you're going to have it. And then being consistent about it and never deviating from that. Will you see a result by the end of the month? I'm going to guess no. So don't hold your breath. But if you consistently do that for the rest of this month and December and January, my guess is that eventually it's going to start to click. It's going to start to click with your team that you care about them, maybe even more than they care about their own results. But come hell or high water, they're going to take care of more customers. They're going to put more money in their pocket, and we are going to win.